Okay, we're going live. And we're good.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I would like to call to order the public session of council for the Borough of Forest Hills, February 24th, 2021. Mayor Porco, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Roll call, please. Mr. Morris.
Mr. Burley? Mr. Burley?
Bill? Bill? Continue on, Mr. Morris. We'll come back to you.
Okay, Mr. Marco?
Present.
Mr. Erbaldanger?
Present.
Mr. Gorel?
Here.
Mr. Lawrence?
Present.
Present. Mr. Thielacker?
Here.
Mr. Tomasic?
Here.
Mayor Porco?
Here.
Ms. Sullivan?
Here.
Mr. Corbel?
Here.
Mr. Gilliland?
President.
And I'm present as well.
Bill, Mr. Burley, are you with us? So can somebody give him a phone call? Does anybody have his phone number? Give him a call.
I'll ring him.
Okay. We know he's present. Okay, in the meantime, did Dave come yet? Oh, there he is.
Yeah, he's there.
Dave, would you like to introduce your
Yes,
associate? Please do so at this time.
yes. I'd like everyone to meet Mr. Lorenz, sorry. Mr. Lorenz Hemphill. He's my new employee. He just moved here this week from Michigan. Last week.
Yeah,
Last week from Michigan. He has a BS degree in civil engineering from Trine University in the state of Indiana. He has worked summers during college for a county public works department for 3 years in Detroit. He also worked for a paving company, and his senior project concentrated in green infrastructure. So he comes with a little bit of experience, even though he's only been out of college for 2 months. But we're happy to have him on board. You may see him involved with some projects and maybe attending some meetings if I have a conflict. And I wanted to introduce him to everyone. So we're happy to have him on board.
Nice to meet everyone.
Okay, thank you. You have our best wishes and best of luck. Okay, President's report. First of all, there will be an executive session in person here at the building after and at the conclusion of this meeting. My report. I have witnessed some actions recently that have basically left me sickened. I have witnessed a culture of bullying, intimidation, and threats and a corrosive atmosphere. From my own personal experience, I've had to deal with allegations made by the Forest Hills Police Association, which stated that I had used language that would suggest a violation of the Borough Code of Conduct. Upon investigation, the following conclusion was determined. Quote, the results of the investigation show that Councilman Tomasic was fully exonerated. Signed by the Vice President, Patricia DeMarco. And for the record, this investigation cost the taxpayers $23,000, $161.96. Over $23,000 of your money had to go to investigating that allegation that everyone basically knows is a lie. For the record, I would like those two documents, the investigation report along with the complaint, to be placed on the borough website so that the taxpayers who paid for this will be able to read exactly what it was all about. Secondly, there was an incident and subsequent investigation involving one of our business owners in which one of our members walked into the place of business and verbally attacked the owner in front of me and his customers. That incident was sustained. We were forced to do an investigation, which cost us over $10,000. Instead of a simple admittance and apology being offered, we had to pay over $10,000 for this act of what I consider bullying and intimidation. We had over almost $35,000 paid out for these two investigations, which, in my opinion, suggest that this corrosive atmosphere has really taken place and needs to be dealt with properly. So, as far as I'm concerned, I have given the information that I think the taxpayers are entitled to know about. That being said, that concludes the President's report. Mayor Porco, Mayor's report, please.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. And just as an FYI, Mr. Burley is having problems with his audio on his computer, so he's not able to hear anything over the webinar. I've told him to try and dial in and see if he can get the audio portion through his cell phone. He's working on that. As far as my mayor's report go, I only have a couple things to talk about, and really they're just two quick recognitions, if you will. The first one is for a resident of the borough by the name of Quentin Gabriel, who next week on March 3rd will be celebrating his 80th birthday. Quentin has been a Forest Hills resident for 46 years. He served the United States in the Army as a military police officer, and actually worked with the presidential security detail for President Lyndon B. Johnson. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to wish him a happy birthday, and we'll be sending Quentin a letter and a proclamation honoring his birthday next week. And then secondly, I wanted to recognize Julia Parsons, who also next week on March the 2nd turns 100 years old. So first of all, I would just like to know what the secret is. And second of all, I just wanted to mention that she has been a borough resident here for a combined total of 67 years, 25 years on Cherry Valley Road, and then another 42 years in Edgewood Acres, where she still lives by herself, still drives. And I think a really interesting thing about Julia is that for the longest time, she had a secret, which was that she was one of the many of a team of Enigma code crackers. So back in World War II, these folks deciphered secret code messages that were being transmitted from Germany to their various like U-boats and Army upper echelon, etc. So she was part of the team in Washington, D.C. that worked on that. And she's also a Carnegie Mellon University graduate. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to wish them both a very happy birthday and thank them for being borough residents. And with that, oh, also last thing, I'm sorry. Last night, I received a phone call from a resident who was rather distraught about had to have been like several 100-ton tree that fell over in his yard yesterday. And so I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank the borough manager, Don Branzel, and our public works foreman, Jim Thielacker. You know, within 3 phone calls, we were able to kind of go out, assess the situation, determine that it was in fact, you know, nothing that was needed immediate attention, but they worked, and the public works department as well. And they just went out there and worked diligently to remediate the issue. It was a borough tree that fell over, so we were responsible for it. And I just wanted to thank everybody involved. And I got to tell you, the feedback from that particular resident was amazing. He was amazed at the work that was done, how fast it was done, and how fast everybody moved to get it going. So just want to take an opportunity to thank that. Sometimes we we take our folks for granted sometimes in terms of like the level of service that we provide to our residents. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank them and recognize them for the efforts to remediate that. And with that, that concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Job well done, okay, by everybody around. Next report, Ms. Sullivan, tax collector.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have nothing to report this evening.
Okay, thank you. I just want to pause here for a minute. Mr. Corbel, would it be possible for you to dial up Mr. Burley? And if he needs to participate, he could do so through your phone if we need him to vote?
Yeah, I can do that, sure.
Okay, why don't you try to call him up?
I will try to do so, yep.
Because it looks like the problem is not going to be solved on his end. Thank you. Chief of Police, Chief Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to put out a little warning to everyone. I know that you probably have already seen some of these things come out, but there have been a lot of different phishing scams and things coming over the internet, phone calls and letters, and just every way you could possibly be contacted lately. It seems like somebody's trying to scam you, whether it be for your IRS taxes, stimulus checks. It could be as simple as, oh, we're going to give you a free Walmart card, just click here. So I know we've seen a few calls like that, and I know I've personally seen some things on my own email where, you know, they've basically tried to lure you in to click here so that they can basically hack your computer. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of these warnings. I know that other things and I've seen them on the news are out there about this, but you know, this is an opportunity to try to maybe get a hold of a few people that may be out there listening to this. And I just want in our area to not have to take a report for somebody who's been basically ripped off by these kind of scams. So that's the conclusion of my report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chief. I would like to echo that. And, you know, anytime you're talking to people, please remind them of these scams that are
Now
going
the X
on.
is gone. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Steve, can you hear me?
Yes, you're good, Bill.
yeah, you're good, Bill.
I can't hear me.
Bill, can I ask Chuck a
They
quick?
can't hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
We
Bill,
can
can I
hear you,
ask
Bill.
Talking into the microphone like where the camera is?
Yeah.
I mean, they heard you before.
I know. All of a sudden.
Bill, can I ask Chuck a related question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Chuck, I just received a call, my social security number got flagged. Is there anything people can do actually to get those people caught? Is there anywhere to report a phone number? Or I know they're smart enough, probably not. What can we
Generally,
do?
it wouldn't be us. It could be the PA Attorney General's office. You know, if it becomes something beyond them, it may be the FBI through their cyber group. But
So pretty much there's
generally,
nothing we can do, it sounds like.
generally, yeah, all you can do is make sure that your particular social security number is protected. You may have to go and get some of that. I forget what the name of the company is, but you may want to go there, because once they have those things, they're going to try to attack other areas, whether it be your bank accounts or your other
No, I mean,
credit
like,
history and things like that.
they're very, they ask you, you push one, and then they ask.
Oh,
you,
okay.
"Hey,
So
for your
you didn't
name."
give up your information.
No,
then.
I don't. I'm not-
That's good.
But I was
Yeah.
talking to her, and then she got very rude and hang up to me.
Yeah. People are not really supposed to be calling and asking for you to give those numbers
I
over
know.
the phone. Generally, the people that need to know your number already have it. And
Exactly.
again, you know, most of these things are just scams or they're phishing. I know I particularly got one from Xfinity the other day, and they were asking me, they said, your email's been hacked. And meanwhile, I looked at the site and the IP, it wasn't even close to what would be in Xfinity. So again, you just have to be careful these days, and it's just it's the new crime. It's easier. It's hands off. All you have to do is be on your computer, and you can do a lot of damage to a lot of people in a hurry. And you know, you just have to be careful about sites you go on, things you click on, and you know, people that talk to you on the phone and ask you questions that they already should have the answer to. You probably can't believe them.
I just wish there would be some easy way to get law enforcement people to track them down, but I don't think there's anything you can do. Thank you.
It's really a tech sensitive thing, and a lot of it's FBI and a lot of it's Attorney General's office. local police and the county police also have some
Can you hear me?
They're able to do that. So
Okay, Bill,
it's out
thanks.
there, but
I'm
again,
okay. I'm all right. I'm all right. I got it.
Okay,
Awesome. Good job.
all right. Okay, we done here with Chuck? Chuck, did you complete your thought?
yes.
Okay, all right. We got Bill
I'm back.
online here. Thank you, Chief. Next item would be, let's see, we don't have Richard, we don't have,
You can go home now.
Okay.
All right.
all right, I guess we'll move to the solicitor's report, Mr. Corbel.
And to report this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you. Wilkinsburg Penn Joint, we get anything from Vivian, Steve?
No, we did
Okay.
not.
Other committee reports, Ms. DeMarco, do you have anything that you would like to report under
Nothing
your
to
group?
report. Nothing to report right now.
Okay, Mr. Lawrence?
Nothing to report.
Okay, Mr. Thielak?
No report.
Okay, thank you all. That takes us to the public comment, agenda and non-agenda items. All persons wishing to address items based on the explanation below will be heard at this time. You have to use the raise hand icon on the bottom of the Zoom screen to request to speak following announcement of the start of the public comment period. This period focuses on both agenda and non-agenda items. At this time, citizens may address council on any issue appearing on today's agenda or any other issue you may wish to bring before council. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Forest Hills will be permitted to address council. This is the only public comment period for this meeting. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Groups will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before council, who may speak for a maximum of 10 minutes. And please spell your name for the record. Speakers are reminded that council uses these comment periods as opportunities to gather information and not to respond directly to concerns raised. Information gathered will not be discussed at the business meeting, but instead will be referred by the council president to the appropriate committee for review and discussion at the next committee meeting. That all being said, do we have anybody who wishes to speak under
We have
public
one
comment at this
We have
time?
one raised hand, Bob Martin.
Barb Martin is now active. You can go ahead and speak, Ms. Martin.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My last name is spelled M-A-R-T-I-N. Thank you. As the chair of the Environmental Advisory Council and resident of Forest Hills, I would like to talk about the upcoming trash and recycling contract before it's finalized at the end of this year. The Environmental Advisory Council would like time to look into this issue because it's part of our climate action plan and there's strong interest in reducing waste and recycling products in a safe and effective manner. Therefore, we ask for a meeting for public comment in preparation for negotiating the new contract. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Martin. We have Mr. Roman, who is now allowed to talk. Mr. Roman, go ahead.
Hi, this is Anthony Roman, Roman Bistro. Last week, a few weeks ago, I got a summons about a hearing that I have to attend regarding my pad and wall on the back of the bistro. And I've been trying to do everything possible to make this thing right. And I'm just not getting any answers. So I just want to use my 5 minutes here. And what we did is we had dumpsters in the back of our building for 8 years. And they've been in the same place for the past 8 years. The health department asked us to put them on a pad and not on cinders. That's a health code for restaurants. So we had a contractor come out and put in a concrete pad. In order to make the pad level, he started digging out the back wall. And in turn, I mentioned to a couple of the council members that we're digging into this, we better put up a wall there. And we thought it's going to be 2 or 3 feet. So I looked into it, and anything over 4 feet, I needed a permit. So we thought we had no problem. And as the wall started getting built, we talked to a couple other people from Forest Hills, one being an engineer, and I don't know the names offhand, my attorney knows. But anyways, they said, as long as you're going to do this wall, do it right and do it like Dunkin' Donuts. So I did. In turn, I went to put in a $1,500 concrete pad, and I spent $12,000 putting in a pad and a wall. And in turn, now I'm making this wall and the road safe and sound, and so the wall wouldn't fall over. And so we did everything we thought we had to do. And then a guy come over and said, I need to just fill out the permits, pay your money, and you'll be fine. I did that. And then he came back and said, well, you need to get a engineered drawing. So I went and got an engineered drawing and spent another $2,700. And I said, well, did you file the permits? He says, I can't file the permits or accept your checks until I get okay from the council. So I'm just wondering, all right, I'm right now I have to go in front of the magistrate for not filing my permits, but I filed my permits, but no one's going to accept them. So I don't know where I stand at this point. I mean, I thought I did the right thing, and I thought, no one takes care of that property where the grass was growing. I take care of it. Supposedly there's a paper alley behind my building. The borough doesn't take care of that. I do. I pave it. I pave it every 4 years. It needs paved again this year. There's potholes all over it. Everyone in Forest Hills uses that alley to go to the gas station, to cut through from that road, and I take care of it. My employees, which I have 44 employees that pay taxes, and we pay Forest Hills taxes in this borough here, and they're almost hit by cars that are flying through there every day. When I first opened this restaurant, you guys approved me to have so many parking spaces in my second lot. And, we've asked several times, to give us a crosswalk from the parking lot to our business. And we get no answer on that at all. And there's almost an accident there once a week from our patrons coming back and forth. But meanwhile, Forest Hills approved that for parking for our customers when we first opened up this business. So I don't understand why it seems like I'm getting targeted. I thought you guys would say, hey, Mike, good job. Thank you for putting that wall up and doing it the right way. Instead, I'm being sued. I don't get it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. We will direct that to our solicitor, Mr. Corbel. So, Mr. Corbel, if you would please look into that and respond to either him directly or his attorney, however you need to, and explain to him what's going on from the beginning of what he stated until the end. Okay?
Yeah, I've already spoken to Mr. Roman's attorney and directed him to file his permit application, grading permit, et cetera. And to the best of my knowledge, that hasn't been done to date. With respect to the crosswalk, we've referred that to Mr. Gilland in the past. Mr. Gilland has advised that crosswalks at mid-block are not permitted, right? That's correct, Mr. Gilland? Yes, okay, he's nodding in the affirmative. So that's the answer there.
It's too close to the intersection.
Yeah, so in order to avoid a hearing, you have to submit the appropriate grading permit. And because of the nature of that hillside, Mr. Roman, the borough is going to require a geotechnical study to ensure that the road is not impacted, because we have had landslide issues just further up Berkeley Road there, or Berkeley Drive. So I will call your attorney again. I know that this is going to be discussed, I believe, under old business by council, and I expect to get further direction from them. So because we haven't heard from your attorney, I was waiting for direction from council, and I anticipate that I'll be reaching out to Mr. Summer again tomorrow.
Okay. I didn't want to get into it to that much detail, but that being said, that concludes that business. Anyone else wish to speak?
Angelo has his hand up, so Angelo, you are okay to talk?
Okay, can you hear me now? Fine?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Angelo Baiocchi. Last name is Baiocchi. CCHI. I'm at 828 Sherwood Road. Thank you, Mr. Morris, Mr. President and Council. I have a question I believe is important. However, before I ask it, I need to react to information I've heard and read from previous meetings I've attended over the last 2 months, as well as what I've just heard this evening. I'm concerned, as well as all residents should be, over alleged inappropriate activities reported to council. The allegations identify scandalous behavior and violation of the Code of Ethics. A previous investigation resulting in the exoneration of Mr. Tomasic cost the taxpayers thousands of dollars. The current controversy involving Mr. Gorel has already involved the loss of borough property and will likely impose additional costs, not to mention the potential of tarnishing the reputation of the entire borough council. I hope that council will take appropriate action to censure and hold legally and financially responsible anyone found to be culpable. Now for my question. In light of the recent civil unrest and attacks against government entities, is council considering or in the process of taking any measures to improve borough building security, especially during public in-person meetings? We have seen the harm and damage that can be done to a heavily guarded facility like the Capitol. Local governments are much softer and more vulnerable targets, which brings us to why I began my comments about alleged inappropriate activities and costs. Wouldn't that money be better spent on security? Thank you for the time.
Well, I think what we could do concerning your questions is we can't answer that right now in terms of our security. The building is presently closed and we are not having any in-person public meetings, only executive sessions. We are in the same building as the police force and we do have panic buttons and emergency buttons to push at this time should we have a problem. But I will refer the matter to both the mayor and the chief and ask them to discuss what possibly could be done as soon as possible and move from there. So we would be able to get those, the mayor and the chief to maybe respond at the next public safety meeting, which shouldn't be too far off in March, as to what plans or actions they may want to put together for the safety of the residents and the protection of the property. Thank you, Angela. Okay. All right. Anybody else wish to speak at this time?
I see Ms. Donahoe. Ms. Donahoe, you're okay to talk?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Donahoe.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Elizabeth, we can hear you.
Great. It's Elizabeth Donahoe, Donohoe. I'm at 220 Overdale Road. And I appreciate the opportunity to put in a request that Judy Parsons be recognized by council on the occasion of her 100th birthday. Mr. Porco has filled in all of the details that are pertinent there, and I appreciate Patty DeMarco taking charge of this as well and making it happen. And more than that, I recommend you all have a search for the CNN interview that was done. They sent a team of 3 or 4 people down from New York to interview Judy last summer, and it's a great 5 or 10 minute segment that's on CNN if you'd like to know more about her and get a sense of her. She's an amazing person, and I've been very fortunate to have known her for quite a number of years over here in Edgewood Acres. So nothing more than that. I don't think I can add to it. I can just say I appreciate any sort of a proclamation or certificate, what have you, for someone who manages to make it to 100 years, which is only amazing. And she's sharp as a tack, fit as a fiddle, and drove herself to the Giant Eagle the other day. So anyway, more than that, I have nothing else to say, and I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. Anyone else like to speak at this time?
We have Mr. Barry, Mr. President. I'm activating him.
Okay.
Mr. Barry, I think you're activated. Can you speak?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yes, go
Okay.
ahead.
Last month, I brought up the topic of the YouTube posting these recordings on YouTube and having residents required to give their addresses. I see that you're going to be taking that up later today. My concern that I raised last month, and this may not have come out clearly, was requiring us to include our address in our confirmation that we're residents here in the borough. And that was my concern, not to say that we wouldn't say that our names, but you already have our information when we register for these Zoom meetings. So you can take that information from the Zoom meeting registration and use that for the minutes. I see no reason to risk security of people here in the borough just so you can get it on the recording. Or if you're going to require that, then you should make some steps to secure people's private information and redact that before you post the YouTube video. That would be the end of my comments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Berry. I believe that we have already addressed this issue. And if I'm not mistaken, we will not be changing the format that we use at this time. Those particulars will be included. Mr. Corbo, if I'm misstating that, and you need to correct me.
That's accurate, Mr. President.
Okay. That being said, we will move on. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak at this time?
I don't see anybody else with a hand raised.
Okay, so that then will conclude public comment, which will take us into, if you give me a minute, the committee reports and the ops and policy. Mr. Lawrence, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. First, I move to approve the minutes from the January 20th, 2020 council meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Those voice vote, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes.
I have moved to approve the minutes from the February 9th, 2020 special meeting of council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or comments? None being, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes.
Next, I move to appoint the following volunteers to the board or committee shown in the table below for the term indicated. Barbara Martin, Environmental Advisory, Marilyn Trilly, Neighborhood Crime Resistance, Lauren Fyfick, Planning Commission, Ed Galloway, Recreation Board, Cheryl Finley, Recreation Board, Barb Kavanaugh, Tree and Shrub, James Dodson, Zoning Hearing Board as an alternate, Irene Lubin, Zoning Board alternate.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion.
Could I
and a
correct
second.
one thing, please?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dodson is moving from alternate to regular member.
Okay.
That's what
Would you please correct that then, please, Mr. Lawrence?
It is on,
Yes.
correct on the table.
Yeah. James Dodson appointed to the Zoning Hearing Board. Term expires February 28th, 2024.
Okay. That being corrected, can we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll, any questions, concerns? All right. Roll call vote, please.
Mr.
Morse?
Mr. Brule, Ms. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Erbaldinger,
Yes.
Mr. Gorel,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Thielacker,
Yes.
President Tomasic.
Yes, motion passes.
I move to authorize the solicitor to prepare and advertise an ordinance amending the current borough grading ordinance.
Okay, we need a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Questions, comments? None being? Voice vote, please. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it and the motion passes.
Okay, in the general report, first, the borough does continue to seek volunteers for a variety of boards and committees. They are listed in the notes here. We are reviewing potential tools for increasing citizen engagement, and as of today, I believe, there's a correction there. We did receive the grant from LGA and will be bringing on an intern to help us research options and gather community feedback on the most appropriate ways to increase our citizen engagement. So that was really good news. I just got that right before the meeting. I believe everything else I think you can review there unless anyone has any other comments. If no, I conclude my report, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Finance Committee, please. Ms. DeMarco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to move to approve the payment of bills for the month of January in the following amounts. From the general fund budget, $203,492.66. From the corrective action budget, $2,861.85. From the fire protection fee, $80,872.06. For road improvements, $24,609.44. For capital improvements plan, $69,722.31. And for the borough building, 4400 Greensburg Pike, $3,102.11. That is for soundproofing and electrical work. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Thank you, Mr. DeMarco. Any questions, discussions, comments? None being, roll call vote, please. Mr. Morris.
Mr. Burley,
Yes.
Ms. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Erbaldinger,
Yes.
Mr. Gorel,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Thielacker,
Yes.
President Tomasic.
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you. I make a motion to exonerate our tax collector Janet Sullivan for the collection of all delinquent taxes for 2020 reported in the amount of $71,341.68 at face value, and previous years and unpaid additional tax bills received due to reassessment, which have been turned over to the borough office for collection.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Comments, questions? None being, roll call vote, please. Mr. Morris.
Mr. Burley,
Yes.
Ms. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Erbaldinger,
Yes.
Mr. Gorel,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Thielacker,
Yes.
President Tomasic.
Yes, motion passed.
I have a motion to accept the engagement letter of Kay Sabatini for audit services for the 2020, 2021, and 2022 financial statements at a cost of $9,990 per audit, as outlined in their proposal letter.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I wish to comment very quickly on this. We engaged Kay Sabatini, I think when I was the finance chair, probably 14 years ago or so. At that time, the cost that the borough was asked to pay was well over $10,000, if I remember correctly. It was about 12 and it was going to 15. When we engaged Kay Sabatini, I believe the cost went down to about $7,000 or $8,000. And over these, I'll just say 10 years to be safe, we have always been under $10,000, which if you're doing any kind of simple math, let's assume you're saving $2,000 a year for 10 years, that's $20,000 a minimum. And as a matter of fact, some of those proposals that we had at the time had a ladder effect in which it was not only just, 12,000, it was going to 13 to 14 to 15 and so on. So I think we have a good setup here in terms of the cost for the service. That being said, does anybody else have any comments that they would like to make at this time? None being, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please, Mr. Morris.
Mr. Burley,
Yes.
Ms. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Erbaldinger,
Yes.
Mr. Goro,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Thielacker,
Yes.
President Tomasic.
Yes, motion passes.
Under general comments, the only thing I'd like to say is that our revenue position is slightly ahead of what it was a year ago, and our expenses are also slightly ahead, but we are well within balance. And I wanted to thank Mr. Morris for tight ship management during this very difficult COVID year. And I appreciate the way he runs our operations with very great care. The rest of the things here for your information. I would also like to remind everybody we are going to be having a detailed discussion about the capital projects plan at the March Finance Committee meeting on the 9th of March. That concludes my reports.
Thank you, Mr. Marco. Borough Property, Mr. Thielacker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a one voting motion. That's a move to approve the hire of applicants for summer recreation work at the pool, now listed as attached to the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Second.
We have a second. Before we vote, Mr. Corbo, do you want to inform anybody at this time about their position versus voting?
I would advise Mr. Erbaldinger to abstain from the vote.
I do that every year. I figured it out already.
I just wanted to make sure. Usually I would just tell you before the meeting because I'd see you, but so I talked to Bill and said this is what we would do. So
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Okay, that being
reason
said,
for
does
that
anybody
being-
else have any comments or questions? Okay, none being, roll call vote, please. Mr. Morris.
Mr. Burley,
Yes.
Ms. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Erbaldinger,
I abstain.
Mr. Goro,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Thielacker,
Yes,
President Tomasic.
Yes, motion passes.
that's about all I have for tonight, Mr. President. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thielacker. Okay, moving on to the next item, planning and zoning, Mr. Burley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have any motions today, but under my general report, we're talking about the tree pruning program that Don presented to us, how it's going. We also talked about the draft that Wilkinsburg Comprehensive Plan is supposed to submit to us, but they haven't done it yet, so don't know where that is. And we also talked about this job at Edgewood Road, the Barrow Tree situation, that's still hanging out there. And we have a plan for Action Housing to place a sculpture on the corner of Ardmore and Braddock. I don't know what it looks like, but it's some kind of veteran sculpture that they're going to put there for us. So are there any comments on that, or how do we feel about that?
I
Okay,
think that
all right.
everybody said that they were in favor of that, Mr. Burley.
Yes.
Okay, well then we're to go. All right, that's
There.
great.
They're attending March Committee of the Whole to review.
Okay. All right, well, that's the end of my report. Thank you, Mr.
Hey,
President.
thank you very much, Mr. Burley. Public Works Committee, Mr. Goro.
No voting matters this evening, but under my general report, I did want to touch on the 2021 paving list that is there in white, and the alternates are listed in green. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Goro. That now takes us to Public Safety, Mr. Erbaldinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one voting motion, move to approve resolution number 1220, establishing a pre-arrest law enforcement assisted diversion lead program in Forest Hills.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any questions? Okay, none being, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Burley, Ms. DeMarco,
Yes.
Mr. Erbaldinger,
Yes.
Mr. Goro,
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence,
Yes.
Mr. Thielacker,
Yes,
President Tomasic.
Yes, motion passes.
My general report can be read in the agenda, and that concludes my report.
Before you conclude, may I add something, Mr. Erbaldinger?
Okay.
For number 4, we are talking about the purchase of a new ladder truck. I would just like to state for the record that this truck is going to be close to 15 years old. And that 15 years ago, Mr. Morris and I both worked diligently to do a refinancing of the borough budget, I shouldn't say budget, but of our outstanding debt. And we were able to cobble together the monies necessary to initiate the purchase of that truck that we presently have. We then instituted the present Fire Protection Services fee, which has that built-in monies to pay for the new truck. So we shouldn't anticipate any change in things. First of all, it's not related to the tax structure at all. It's a separate fee. But I'm hoping that everything under the work of Mr. Thielacker, who is putting in the effort at this particular time in working on this, that everything will come to fruition for the 15-year usage of the present fire truck. So I thank you all for working on that. I think it's a very important aspect for the borough fire department to be able to have a modern, up-to-date truck. Thank you, Mr. Erbeldiner.
Thank you. And that concludes my report.
Sorry, Mark,
Okay.
one quick note, Mr. Tomasic,
Yes.
on that. I should have a full set of numbers and everything for the March committee meetings. So
Oh, okay, that's very good. Thank you.
hopefully, if
Didn't know
everything,
that you
everything
had
looks
completed
good,
that.
everything looks good, hopefully approve it in March to get that up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
So
And
now,
other,
I think now it concludes my report.
I'm sorry, Mr. Erbeldiner, I apologize. Okay, next item is old business, and I am up for the Roman Bistro Borough property issue. Okay, as you know, this was brought up earlier by one of the comments during the comment period. And on the Roman Bistro, I would like to state that we had a business owner dig into the hillside that does not belong to Mr. Roman. He placed a wall in there and along with the pad without due diligence. He did not get a permit, he did not get a survey, and he violated the borough ordinance. And because of that, we now have to deal with that through our attorney. And these are the things that were discussed in a previous meeting. Number one, our engineer has to do a geological study or survey at Mr. Roman's expense to evaluate the stability of the wall and hillside. If it's determined to be stable, we need to work with Action Housing, who owns the adjoining building in which the Roman Bistro exists right now, to produce some sort of easement. Number three, we need to seek compensation for all of the costs, including the compensation for the borough property, which ended up in Councilman Gorel's yard. For the record, Mr. Gorel has made an assertion based on hearsay twice that our public works foreman and engineer gave some sort of permission for this act, which has no basis in fact. Both men have denied this assertion. I can attest to the character of both Jim Thielacker and Dave Gilliland, and they say no such statement was made. I am going to believe them regardless. The work performed requires due diligence and a permit approved by our zoning officer and no one else. Okay, again, to attack our borough workers and say that they made statements without any facts is another sign of this corrosive attitude that just has to stop. That concludes my old business. New business, Ms. DeMarco.
We've already heard from the mayor that we have a 100-year-old citizen who's celebrating her birthday on March 2nd. I would like to make a motion to adopt a resolution of commendation in her honor to be delivered to her on in time for March 2nd birthday. If I could have a resolution of council, I will be happy to draft it for the mayor's signature.
Okay, that would be by the mayor, correct, Mayor?
Mayor would sign it, yes.
Okay. All right, however, do you want to work that out is fine. Anything else, Mr. Marco?
No, that's all.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our business for this evening. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. Executive session in person at the building, please. Thank you.
Night.